Alright, so here we go. This is a Rivarossi Big Boy 4884. This is an older model. It was originally the most common one, which is 4005. I renumbered it because I got a bunch of them. I remoted this one. You can see the motor is buried in the cab. It's not sticking out of the back. That's because I chopped the frame and modified the drivetrain to get it in there. I didn't like it sticking out. I wanted to paint the cab green. So anyway, the reason why I'm making this video is some people ask, they say they got one of these and it's not picking up any track power, no headlight, no nothing. This one has been modified. It's got DCC in it, so it's a little tougher to troubleshoot if there's a problem. But the first thing you want to do is you want to take your power leads off your power supply, and you want to, we'll just make pretend this is the back of the Big Boy. You'll have a motor hanging out like that. You want to connect it to the power wires and see if the motor runs. If it does, then that means your motor's good. If it don't, then that's where you want to start. If it runs, then you need to go to the bottom of the train, connect your power wire to the rear truck like a bolt screw on the front and the back. If it doesn't power up, what you want to do is you want to keep one powered here, go to the back of the motor, touch it on one terminal. If you get no spark, go to the next one. If you get no spark, then you have no connection somewhere. If you get a spark on one, then that means you have continuity. You can use an ohmmeter, would be the best bet. Most people don't have one. So just tapping the power supply, shortening it out for a split second is not going to kill it. Especially if you only have it like at half voltage. If you have a power supply like what I got here, you'll see it be a dead short. The amp meter will jump to, it'll pin. That will tell you if you got continuity between your truck and your power on the back of the motor. So you want to do both of them, make sure you have continuity. If you have continuity, then that means you have, your electrical connections from either truck to the motor. So then you want to start looking at your wheels. Do you have continuity between your wheels and your truck? And what you want to do is you want to look down in there and you'll see a little silver pin touching the wheel. You want to make sure the back of the wheel is clean, that the connection, the pin is spring loaded. When you move the truck up and in and out, the pin should always touch the wheel. If it doesn't, you got a problem. Now you see this little brass piece. I made a wiper so it touches the edge of this wheel to continue to give it. So I have 3 wheels that have power on this side instead of 2. I also did the back. The reason why I did it is because these things are noted for where the pin sits in, that for some reason it doesn't sit tight enough and it doesn't push hard enough against the frame, and it can lose the connection. Now, if you know how to solder, my suggestion is, and I didn't have to do it on these Big Boys, they all made a connection, but what you can do is you take the truck apart, you pull the pin out, you scrape a little of the chrome roughen it up, tin a wire with flux and solder, a very small wire, and solder very, very small. When I say small, I mean small, thin. You know, like, you know, thinner than this. This is thin. Solder to the casing of the pin, you know, the spring-loaded pin, and then at some point you want to scrape some of the coating off in the frame and solder it to that to make sure that you have electrical connection all the time if you think that one of these pins is iffy. So the best way to test this is if you have an ohm meter, put it on ohms, you know, continuity, hold one terminal here, touch the wheel, make sure you got that it's got continuity, wiggle the wheel back and forth, rock it back and forth, do this to it to see if you lose connection. If you lose connection, then you have a problem there. The other problems that these things have is over time they do get some connection from the front wheels, and you can see the little black discs on the back of the wheel. That means that that's the side that gets power. You can see it where my thumb is, and then where the other side doesn't have a disc. I don't know if you can see that. That side doesn't have a disc, the side with my thumb does. Sometimes corrosion will build up between the disc and the wheels, right in here. What I like to do is I like to take a thin razor blade and slide it in there and just clean out the crap and then make sure the disc snaps back on. The other thing is if the rivet is real loose, you can, what I've done, not with this particular train, but I've done on a couple of them, where I would actually solder a very, very flexible wire to the truck itself and to this piece here where I know it's getting a connection. And how I test if it's bad, I do the same thing between the frame and the wheels. I wiggle it back and forth, turn the wheels, spin the wheels, and see if the meter fluctuates. If it does, then it means we have a bad connection. The back ones are easier. Never really see a problem with these. You just gotta keep these connections clean right here, and on the stainless steel spring piece here, you want to make sure that's clean. Same thing. Use a ohm meter. Go from here to the wheels that have the disc on them, and make sure you have continuity. The other problem that you may encounter, and it's very common, is on the front truck. See that black wire? You'll see a red and black wire. That's just for the LED for the headlight. But this wire here can break off. When it breaks off, sometimes you will get an electrical connection where the holder is, the pivot point where the pin goes through the screw. Sometimes you'll get an electrical connection through that, and sometimes you won't. So if you have no electrical connection from your front truck to your motor, you want to check that wire. Or if your train shuts off in the corners, you want to check that wire. Make sure that wire is not broken. The other problem that these rivarossis have, they actually all have them, even the new ones. This piece that holds this can be bent down slightly and allow too much allow the front truck to hang down too far, and then the steam pipe, which is right there. See how it's hanging out? If you're not careful and you go to put this on the track, you'll see what happens. It'll get caught underneath the boiler. Now this one here is borderline, because I haven't really done anything with it. It's not an issue. But some people I've seen, these things are so worn or bent down that every time they take it off the track, that steam pipe will fall out of the slot. You can fix that easily by taking this train apart and rebending that piece so it sits up tighter. Now, in some cases, the hole where the screw goes is got so much play, and it's just about getting ready to break. What I usually do is I'll take the screw out. I'll take a piece of flat plastic, square plastic. I will sand it round so it fits in there very tightly. Then I'll sand a little bit more off. I'll put it back in, make sure it's pretty tight but not overly tight. Put a little glue on it, a little CA, and push it back in. Wait for it to dry, and then drill a new hole right in the center of that to put the screw back in. And then that will tighten this up so it's not flopping in the wind. And the other problem that these things have, if their children play with them, is the pin that comes out of here and goes into the top of this cylinder can break off. You can carefully drill that out, get yourself a screw, sand the threads off of it, or you can use a nail, a very small nail that has a big enough head that it won't fall through the plastic. Drill yourself a hole, put a little CA on it, drop the pin in. I actually have a train, I don't know which one it is, but there's one floating around here where that was broken off when I bought it. And I did just that. I used a small nail. I can't tell if it's this train, but one of them has it. It broke off. I drilled the hole, put a small nail in it, glued it, and then cut the length off. So there again, you want to start with putting power to the motor. My motor is recessed, but you want to put power to the motor. Make sure the motor runs. You want to check that front wire. Make sure that's not broken off. You want to check continuity between your front truck and your motor, and your rear truck and your motor. If you have continuity on both, it should run. There shouldn't be any reason as long as the motor runs. If you have continuity between your front truck and your motor and your rear truck and your motor, then you want to check to see if you have power or continuity between the wheels and the truck. If you don't, then you want to go right at those pins. You can cheat. Instead of soldering, you could put a little piece of tin foil around it, so when you snap it back in, when you push it in, that it makes a connection. But you want to make sure that whatever you use does not impede the pin from moving in and out when you push on the train. It should be spring loaded. And that's about it. This video I'm actually making for somebody that asked a question. The name was Amy Craft. I don't know who that is. But they were asking a question. They had a big boy that would not power up. So I hope that the Amy Craft, whoever it is, will see this video on my channel and that it will help them. If anyone has any questions about these older rivarossis, shoot a comment. I'll be more than happy to try to help you. If you're forced to take it apart, there's a screw underneath this cap. There is a 3mm, that is a 3mm bolt. You'll need a little nut driver here. You can buy them at any hardware store. It's 3mm. I would suggest, if you do get one, if you know somebody with an electric sander, sand some of the outer edge of this off so it will fit in here easier, because this is very tight. Once you get this screw out and you pull the screw out, there is a nut on the bottom of this. You're going to hate life if you lose it, so be very careful. And then last but not least, there is a screw right there. You can see it right in front of the bar, the tow bar, or whatever they call it. That's a long a long threaded flathead screw, and then of course you have to remove the grab irons off the back. That 3mm also tightens these up. If anybody has one of these trains and these bolts are constantly loosening up, they really shouldn't be. I hear a lot of people complaining. There's supposed to be a very, very small washer between this bolt and this plastic. If there isn't, every time you tighten it up, the brass nut that's on the other side, you're pulling it through the plastic. So there should be a small, very, very thin, small washer underneath all of these to stop that from pulling through. So if you got one that you're constantly tightening it up and it's constantly loose, you want to check to see if that washer is there. That's very, 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 very small washer. When you're buying these things used and someone's already taken them apart, most likely they're missing. So if you have any questions, leave a comment, question. I'll be more than happy to try to help you. Thanks for watching.